This video is over subtracting mixed numbers. Just like with adding and subtracting any fraction, you must have a common denominator. The least common denominator is the least common multiple of the denominators. Your steps for finding your answer for subtracting mixed numbers is to find your least common denominator. Then find the equivalent fraction with that least common denominator. Then you're going to subtract your fractions from fractions. You're going to borrow if necessary. This is the new part. We'll cover how to do that here in just a minute. Step 4 says subtract whole numbers from whole numbers, and your last step is always to simplify. So let's start with our first step. We need to find a least common denominator for 4 and 8. Again, if you are having trouble finding those, all you have to do is find the multiples of 4 and the multiples of 8, and you find the small, oh, I circled the wrong part. You find the smallest one that they share. It is 8. Okay, now, to change a 4 into an 8, you multiply by 2. If you do it to the bottom, you must do it to the top. You don't have to do anything to an 8 to make it an 8, so you're just going to copy the top number. This is the new part. You cannot take a 7 out of a 2. If you have 2 of something, you cannot give somebody 7. So you are going to have to borrow. You're going to go to your whole number and borrow a whole, making it a 7. Now with regular subtraction, you would add just a little 1 there and make it a 12. That is not how you do it with fractions. With fractions, you have to borrow a whole, but it needs to look like a fraction. So you are going to add that whole right here, but make it look like a fraction. To do that, your number one rule is that you have a common denominator. We already have a common denominator. It is an 8. So, you think, how many 8s do I have to have a whole, to have all of them? You would have to have 8. So no matter what your denominator is, whether it was a 6, it would be 6 sixths. If it was a 5, it would be 5 fifths. Whatever your denominator is, you have to have all of them to have your whole. Then you're going to add your two numerators together, and you have a 10. Now you can subtract. 10 minus 7 is 3 over 8. 7 minus 2 is 5. And that's your answer. Make sure you double check this fraction. If it can be simplified, you need to simplify it. Again, I'm going to go back and reiterate. You add your whole like a fraction. Then you have to add the numerators of the fraction you already had plus your whole, and put your answer up top. Then you can subtract. 10 minus 7 was 3. Okay, I want you to try one. I want you to try 4 1/8 minus 1 1/2. I want you to pause the video, work it out. After you have completed it, hit play, and then you can check your answer. Okay, so your first step is to find a common denominator. Your least common denominator between an 8 and a 2 is 8. You don't have to do anything to an 8 to get an 8, so you copy your numerator. To turn a 2 into an 8, you multiply by 4. If you do it to the bottom, you have to do it to the top, making it a 4. Now we come to our borrowing. You cannot take a 4 out of 1. You don't have 4 to give me. So you have to go next door and borrow from your whole number and make it a 3. You're borrowing a whole, but it has to look like a fraction. So you're going to add the fraction over here. you use your common denominator. You already have a common denominator of an 8. You have to have all 8 of those 8ths to make it a whole. Then you're going to take these two numerators and add them together. Now you can subtract. 9 minus 4 is 5 over 8, and 3 minus 1 is 2. This fraction is simplified, so that is your answer.